Joining us, as always, on Wednesdays on Doctor in the House is Nikki Klegel from Fulfill Your Legacy in Alton. And Nikki, what is the problem that we're focusing on today?
Yeah, so today we are going to talk about letting grace in because I want to encourage people to live freely in Christ. And I think the problem is we don't exactly always know what that means or how it works. We may have times where we really just mess up. We might do something that's big or really small, but it can be things like putting our foot in our mouth or maybe choosing ourselves over somebody else. Maybe we kind of live in this sort of independent life where I've got it all. And as a result, then, we just sort of replay these things, and we think on them. When we screw up, we think over and over, and they start to consume our thoughts, and then it sort of gets a foothold on us and keeps us in this heavy, dark place. And, I really realize in time now, working with so many people, it's really hard to let the light in and let that healing happen that Christ has done for us, this living freely in Christ, when we're full of all that angst. So that's the problem.
And as we try to tackle this problem, well, what is the word that you focus on?
Yeah, so one verse, and I love the book of John. I think I've said that many times, but John 3:17, so it says, "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but instead to save the world through him." I want to look at that just a little bit. So not condemned. That's where, honestly, we get to we have to remember that's where a lot of our darkness comes from, is we feel guilty and we feel shame and all these things. And we do that because we think we're condemned, we're bad, we're wrong, all these things. That is not why Jesus came, so we don't have to feel that way. The next part of the verse talks about how we're saved, and I want us to think about that's a past tense word. I mean, I think what we do is we sort of live in the sin. We live in the embarrassment. We live in the consequences of our sin and the things that have happened, and we start thinking, dwelling, and we're living in that. But we have to remember that we are saved. He already forgave us for this sin, so we shouldn't be there. We should step into him. The next thing is through him. So these things in the verse, God did not condemn us. He came to save us, and then it's through him, so through Christ. And so what does that mean? Well, it's sort of this place of transformation. And, it's not by our perfection that, we feel better, that we don't have to be perfect to go living freely and enjoying life. We have to remember that we get this transformation. It's through Christ that we get to live freely. So I'm going to go in. That's the gift. It's just this kind of free place. And I mentioned it above, but, we just shouldn't be stuck in that guilt and shame. We need to, that's what the freedom in Christ means, is where we live in the love and grace that God gives us with Christ.
And we consider the choice.
Yeah, so then, of course, we have free will, so we need to let that light in. We have to realize when we're getting stuck in those cycles of darkness and things, and just really, it's our choice, it's our free will. We can live in the suffering, or we can step into the grace of the Father. That's our choice. But I want us to remember one more thing, and that is we have a responsibility then. I mean, otherwise we live this life where we sort of go on doing a whole bunch of bad things. We're like, I'm fine. I got Christ. Well, that's not really how it works. We also have this sense of responsibility, so we don't live in the guilt and shame, but we're grateful for this gift. We live joyously in this gift, and we're committed then to move forward and make work of it. We can go on and give God the glory so other people can see, geez, that's what Christ does for you. What is this Christ person about? Or we can give back in the places that we've learned and raise the kingdom up by him healing us. We can just encourage other people. I've been there. You do this. It works. That sort of thing.
And people can visit your website, and there's all sorts of helpful tools that you have on there.
Yeah, go to nikkiklegel.com. I'd love to see you there. I have a blog, and there's lots of good tips and oftentimes coaching tools and free downloads in there. I have a podcast in there, and soon the syndicated podcast, which is 108 million listeners, will start feeding over to a new podcast. That'll be the end of March. So get there and just get filled up with as much free good stuff that you can.
Fantastic. Thank you once again for joining us, Nikki.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. That is Nikki Klegel from Fulfill Your Legacy in Alton on today's Doctor in the House.